What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today, this morning, I want to get into Mike Williams, his return to the New York Jets, and the latest with his injury update. The New York Jets are on the practice field later today, so we will have you covered with that, but wanted to talk a little bit more in detail about Mike Williams' injury. When you're seriously hurt, your injury could be worth millions. Morgan & Morgan doesn't settle for lowball offers. They achieved significant verdicts in the past couple of months for victims involved in life-altering car crashes. It only takes a few short minutes to see if you have a case, and the fee is absolutely free unless you win. Over 3 million people like you call them every single year in their time of need, and they've recovered over $20 billion for their clients over the years. If you've ever gotten seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. It's so easy. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/Matt, found in the description, or by scanning the QR code on your screen from your phone's camera. You can contact Morgan & Morgan today. So yesterday, Mike Williams told the media that he is returning to team drills next week. 2 weeks of practice before the start of the regular season is what he will get. Unfortunately, no preseason game, but it really feels like that no one from the New York Jets starting offense or defense for that matter is going to be playing in this preseason game against the New York Giants. They will make their decision after Wednesday's joint practice, but I'm just basing this off of Robert Saleh's comments, Aaron Rodgers' comments to the media. At this point, at least for me, it would be a surprise if the New York Jets starters played, but Mike Williams is not expected to return to team drills until next week. So what does that mean? As I just pointed out, 2 weeks of practice before the start of the regular season, because now, or the last few years, not necessarily right this minute, but over the last couple of years, since they went to 3 preseason games, there is a week of essentially a bye week. There's no game, and then the following week is a game. The Jets play on Monday, so they get an extra day even in the mix. Things you just absolutely love to see. And what I wanted to do is, I touched on it briefly in yesterday's video because Mike Williams spoke with the media and it was something that we discussed, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail in this one of what his return could mean for this offense. So there is no denying where Mike Williams will play for the New York Jets. He is an outside receiver. He has played a significant number of snaps on the outside, and there are different ways that the Jets could go about running their offense in 2024, assuming Mike Williams is healthy. So there's no doubt that he will be on the outside. If the Jets want to get Garrett Wilson in the slot, they could have Allen Lazard on the outside with Wilson in the slot, or Garrett Wilson on the outside with one of Xavier Gipson or Malachi Corley in the slot. Lazard can line up in the slot as well, but you get my drift. If you're looking for Wilson inside especially, that opens up an opportunity for Lazard and Mike Williams on the outside, and I think we all feel a lot more comfortable with Mike Williams. Even with the resurgence of Allen Lazard, it's not enough for us to completely jump off and say, forget about Mike Williams. Jets don't need him. As an outside receiver, usually you have to be a pretty good contested catch guy in his career, 54.5% on contested catches. So he makes a 50-50 ball, a little bit better than just that. He's able to go up and get it. And I think that would be very useful for the Jets in the red zone, or the gold zone, as Nathaniel Hackett calls it. The New York Jets were absolutely abysmal last year in the red zone, gold zone, whatever you want to call it. Granted, I think quarterback play and play calling had a large thing to do with that. Also, self-inflicted wounds with penalties. How could you not think back to the game against the Raiders last year? That is a good example, or not a good, but that's an example of it. And moral of the story, they should be improved just by going to Aaron Rodgers, but also adding someone like a Mike Williams who could, go up and get the football in the red zone. Seems like a nice added bonus. Excluding 2023, or just skipping over it because he only played in 3 games, looking at 2022, the last full season he played, he caught 63 catches. And I wanted to look at where his catches were coming from. And a large chunk of them, 27 of his catches were 10 plus yards down the field. So Mike Williams is going to help the Jets push the ball downfield a little bit more. Now, Justin Herbert also likes to air it out, but there's no denying when you look at his, contested catch numbers and his height and just the statistics, it backs up the thought that Williams is going to, one, not only help in the red zone, but number two, help push the ball down the field. They call him nine route Mike for a reason. He's going to run down the field, open things up for some things underneath. We know that Rodgers likes sending the tight end over the middle of the field, and some of his more speedy guys underneath, which is totally fine. Jets could take advantage of that. But Williams will help them stretch the field a little bit more, and they didn't really have a guy who did that all too well. So adding this back into the offense, I think, is going to be again, major plus. Mike Williams gets compared to Breece Hall a lot, and that might leave you scratching your head because, well, Breece Hall's a running back, and Breece Hall is on the verge of superstardom, but the reason being they both are coming off of ACL injuries, or Breece was a year ago, and Mike Williams is now this year. And Breece Hall came out of the gate hot against Buffalo, but then got a little bit cold for a few weeks against the Cowboys, then against the New England Patriots. Had an okay game against the Kansas City Chiefs, but week 5 against the Broncos is where he popped off, and then against the Giants a couple weeks later. So by about October is about when he started to look like himself again. And that's someone who, again, was coming off an ACL injury. So with Mike Williams, I kind of have that same mindset. Well, yes, I'm sure he'll have a couple of catches each one of these games here early on in the year. I don't think he begins to really hit his stride and look like his old self until maybe around mid-October, around that week 5 range. Can the Jets survive that, though? Yeah, they're just going to have to do things a little bit differently offensively. I think you play small, which means you have Garrett Wilson on the outside, and you have essentially Lazard and Mike Williams split the other outside receiver role with Corley and Gibson in the slot. You feature the tight ends a lot, run a lot of 12 personnel. Like, there's ways to get around that. And again, I don't think that's something that's going to last the entirety of the season. But if your thought is after just 2 weeks of practice, he's going to come out and in week 1 against San Fran catch 7 passes for 120 yards, I'm not there. Does he have a couple weeks this year where he goes off and has a bunch of catches and a couple touchdowns? Maybe. Yeah, maybe he does. But I think especially early on in the season, he's going to be brought on slowly before hitting his stride. Maybe the Houston game on Halloween is probably a good indicator of when he's going to really start looking like his old self again. And again, that's not to say that he can't be a useful piece of the offense early on in the year, but I wouldn't expect him to have massive numbers early, and probably even just cumulatively looking at the entirety of the year. I think he'll have a stronger second half than first half, but are we going to see an 1,000-yard number 2 wide receiver for the Jets this year? Probably not, just because of, one, how much they're going to spread the ball around, and especially him coming off the injury. So I don't see it. There we go. Those are my thoughts on Mike Williams' return. Let me know what you think about him returning to the lineup. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you next time.